So I'm Bill. Got with me Ken. You'll say hi.
Yeah. Hey guys, or hey everyone. Thanks for joining.
So Ken's our CRO. Phil is with us. This has been Phil Houston, head of product design. You'll say hi, Phil.
Hello, everyone.
Phil's
Good.
been the lead on this project that we have. I'm really excited to be doing this because we've been having so much fun with this and the results are so amazing. Just a little bit about us right off the top. Like we've had the privilege of working with some of the largest law firms in the world. Been doing it for 23 years now. We've got more than 80 firms live on our invoices to cash platform. And something that I think is really important is we've got an incredible invoices to cash implementation and support team. And for our US Canadian firms, they're all US based. And for our UK and EMEA firms, they're all UK based. We do all the implementations for our projects, so we're responsible for the whole project. Invoices to cash, everything that happens from when you finalize the bill to when you get paid. This is how we're going to increase collected realization rate, how we're going to increase working capital in the firm. So workflow automation around bill delivery, AR notices, tracking everything that we're doing in collections, making it really easy for clients to pay. And then DataQ AI underlies all of this, but actually it's much bigger than that because what we're doing is analyzing the entire billing and collections lifecycle. And we're doing this at the time entry and individual cost transaction level. So for work in process at the time entry level, and billed at the time entry level, and paid at the time entry level, and applying those payments to time entries, which in Pattern, for example, is a challenging thing to do. And this is a very conscious decision that we've made to do this work at this detail level because the more data that you feed into AI, the better the results are that you get. And we get so much better results by doing this at this kind of at the full detail that's available to us.
What I love about DataQ AI too is it's expanding invoices to cash to whatever you want to refer to it as, work to cash or the life cycle of a transaction. And I think that's a key thing to really hone in on is that the width that we're bringing over is to the transaction level, the bill detail obviously, and then the paid detail, the payments all the way back to the transaction level as well. What that allows us to do is just have much more in-depth reporting around this. And really what DataQ AI does, invoices to cash has always been how we've implemented it, a seamless handoff from how we get bills delivered, how we get those paid, how we follow up on those bills, do the collections activities, and then ultimately get paid for the AR as well. What DataQ does is not only shows you what has happened, that's pretty standard, it shows you what's happening right now, but its main task is to tell you what should be happening based on each of those different stages and looking at everything that's occurred from when the transaction was entered to when it got paid and what that tells us about what we should be prioritizing, what we should be acting on immediately in order to make the entire work to cash process just more efficient, which is the goal at the end of the day.
Yeah, that acting on part is so crucial. And so we all live in the problem where this just happens way too often today, where because there's always too much to do in billing and collection. So our attorney does the work and we go through the billing process. We have our own delays. The client adds their delays. And so just too often we end up in this circumstance where it hits over 90 and then the billing attorney agrees to do a write-off to get it off that AR report. And so the end result is that we've got a ton of lockup and 90% realization. And what we want is to get rid of all of these manual steps that make this such a difficult process so that more and more often we can get to a best practice approach where the bill is getting out on time, delivered right away. And then here's the really crucial part, which is that we're immediately catching when the client normally would pay, and for whatever reason, didn't happen on time this time, and we're not going to wait until they show up in the over 60 report in order to follow up with them, and we're going to prevent this from becoming a problem right away. And so this is a great application of doing cash forecasting at the invoice level. And of course, the result that we get from doing this is dramatically different. So much shorter lockup, 100% realization. And so how do we get there? It comes from using the workflows around bill delivery and collections to eliminate or automate all the manual exceptions that make this such a difficult and challenging area. And then the thing that is what we're here to talk about today, which is finding and leveraging the strategic exceptions, which is what DataQ AI is all about.
Yeah, it used to be a bunch of dates. We've shown these slides a few times, and we would look at the dates and we knew what the problem was and we knew how to solve it through automation. But now we don't look at just the dates. We look at all of these different data points that DataQ's coming along for the ride and learning different things each of these steps in order to make the process more efficient every single time that we do it. It's continually learning.
So let's pop in and look at some software here. Going to start with the big picture. The Pulse dashboard's great if you're the accounting manager, director of finance, and just want to see how we're doing relative to last year. So a great way to see the big picture all at once. I'm logged in as Kelly. She's a biller. Just finalized a couple of priority bills in the financial management system. We've picked up on those. They show up in Kelly's queue. And because the workflows that are assigned, we've automatically put together the emails to send those out. And this is a client that, like a lot of clients, has some particular requirements for how their bills get delivered. So we've got 5 matters for this client, and they want 4 of those to be sent on this email. And then they have 1 matter that's being handled separately, still going to the same people, but they want it in a separate email. So we put that out by itself. I can send them individually. I could do it in mass, which is more impressive if there's more than 2, and send those out. And when the client gets this, so there's 2 things about the bill delivery. One is you have control over how we're delivering the bill. So it can be sent just via a link, or it can be a link and a PDF. And the reason we give you that option is because so many of your clients really want to have the PDF as an attachment because it makes their lives much easier. They really don't want to have to log into the client portal and download the PDF so that they can then put it into their AP system. It's just a lot easier if it's included in the email, but it's your choice. The advantage we get with the link is that we get to track the activity of the client clicking on that link. And so then when we deliver this email, the client clicks on the link. We verified who they are by them receiving the email. So it's a magic link. It takes them directly to their client portal. And we're going to highlight at the top the bills that were included in that email that we just sent them. But we're going to show them all their other bills that are still outstanding. We're always going to do the math for them, so you don't get overpayments. Client gets to choose what they want to pay. We remember their payment methods. We give you control over what payment methods are available by client, and then we hit pay. And because we have all of this allocation information, we're able to put this right back in to the financial management system for cash application. It really makes life so much easier, both for your client, which means you get paid faster, and for your accounting department.
And that's really the key, right? Like we would love to have links every single time, but if that's going to break the automation or the adoption of that automation because certain clients require PDFs, we want to be able to automate all the bills that are being sent out, not just the ones that we're forcing to accept links. And at the end of the day, making it easier on your client to pay is delivering what they actually want and what they're actually expecting to pay versus just what we've told them they can have.
And makes it really easy for me to take that and just add it Although drag and drop does not like screen share. So I can also just pop in and pull it up that way. So we're sending the emails through the firm's Office 365. And so it's coming as like any other email that's coming from the firm. So if the client's getting emails from their attorney, they're going to get their bills also because the bills are being sent exactly the same way. And you can choose in the workflow who it's coming from. It can come from a central mailbox, it can come from the billing attorney, it can come from the biller, it can come from the attorney's assistant, all of those options. And it doesn't have to be the same for everybody. So maybe it normally comes from the central mailbox, but you have certain billing attorneys that just really want it to come from them. And you can just set that up with a separate workflow to do exactly that.
So meaning their replies to those out of offices, things like that, they're going to get just like any other email. You could have given me a heads up. They can pull open their sent items and see exactly what was sent on their behalf and not have to make that call back to accounting saying, hey, what'd you send to my client? I've got them on the phone right now.
And ideally, the clients just paid you, but let's say they didn't and we need to follow up with them. Well, we're going to create AR notices that follow up with that client. And so here's our same client. We'll say we've moved forward in the future, they haven't paid us. We're going to put that AR notice together. In this particular case, we've decided we're going to send one email. We're still going to separate out between our statements of account, where we have one statement of account that is for everything for this client, and then the one separate one that is for that one special matter. Of course, you could send it, you can have it set up to go in separate emails. You have control over all of that. Now, as the billing manager, I'm going to want to know that my bills are getting out. So I might very well go to the email queue dashboard in order to see the current state of how my billers are doing and cases where billing attorneys are doing it, how the billing attorneys or their assistants are doing in getting the bills out. But you don't even have to be proactive in coming to this because anything that we can create a metric for, like bill approvals that are more than 3 days old, we can turn that into a workflow automation that pushes that data out. And so I can send that out in an email. And every morning when there are past due bill approvals, I'm going to get an email, or the billing manager is going to get an email that tells me that with a direct link to the dashboard, or you don't even have to click on that. We can actually include the dashboard in the email. And so you can just think about all the great opportunities for when you want to take information and push it out to the right person at the right time. Okay, we called this Beyond AR Aging. So as we dive a little bit deeper into DataQ AI, I am ironically going to start with AR aging and not in recreating the paginated AR reports that you've got plenty of, but how do you the AR data and find strategic opportunities to get better? So I can see what my overall AR is. Maybe I want to look at that AR that is over 180. So I'm going to filter down to AR that is 180. I've got almost $3.5 million that's in over 180. And now I can see what the breakdown is by billing attorney, by practice area, by client, and any of these things that I want to look at. So this client has got a lot of over 180. If I want to click on that client, I can then go down to the matter level. In this case, it's only one matter. Let's come back out and start back up at the top. So if I'm looking at all of my AR and I want to see how are we doing by billing attorney or by practice area. So I might understand why that's happening in bankruptcy, but I want to dive into corporate and look at, so I've got total AR of almost 4.8 million in corporate. Let's dive into corporate. Now I'm seeing my billing attorneys just in the corporate practice area, and I'm seeing my clients just in the corporate practice area. And so I can do the same thing. I can just keep diving in until I find where's the problem coming from. And so it's much more interesting being able to do this interactively and see what's happening. And if I need to see the data in a different way, like maybe it's really important to me to see the AR by office. So you're not going to let everybody do this, but for the small number of administrative users that you want to be able to change dashboards, I can go into design mode on this dashboard and I could come down to my aging by practice area. Say, you know what? I want to create a copy of that because what I would really like to do is change this because I want to have a version of this that is by office. And so we're going to take the billing attorney's office, replace the practice area with office. And remember to change the title here so that it makes sense. And now I've got my breakdown by office, and I can do the same thing. I can drill down into that and do the same thing I've been doing with all the other elements. WIP aging is the same thing. Same capability to go in and look at WIP that's been sitting out there for too long, understand where it's coming from, identify the source of of the problem. Let's talk about work to cache. This is something that is very difficult to do. So I'm looking at what was worked by month for last year. And then right below that is when was that work billed and collected? And I can drill down into a specific month. So let's start with January. We did $4.5 million worth of work in January. And if I click on January, now I'm going to follow just that work through and see when it got billed and collected or written off. And this is amazing for understanding what our billing and collections efficiency is. Because normally when you look at billed and paid reports, you're just seeing everything that was worked, billed, and paid in that month. It's not tracking what we did in a month all the way through so that we can understand how efficient we are at getting work to build to paid. And then once I've done that, I can then dive deeper into that. So here's our lockup by practice area. And it also shows how much we're billing by practice area. So we've got a tremendous amount of lockup in employee benefits, but it's not a big practice area for us. So I may not spend a lot of time in that. But corporate litigation is on the higher end of lockup and is a huge practice area for us. So maybe I want to dive into corporate litigation, see who the billing attorneys are that are working on that. Same thing, I've got an outlier over here, but not a lot of billing. Let's focus on somebody that is higher and enough billing that it's really going to make a difference. And so now I'm looking at Ashley's work as a billing attorney within corporate litigation, and I can see that by client. And then if there's a particular client I'm interested in, like here's a client that we build quite a bit, it's kind of an outlier. I can click on that client, dive in and see what's happening with that specific client. So it gives me this amazing ability to go in and analyze and really understand what's happening and what's the source of the problem? Where do we need to be focusing our efforts to improve the overall billing and collections process? That's big picture analysis. Let's get into some really specific strategic exceptions. Analyzing the cash receipts for the last day. In this case, I'm doing it for a week. is a great example of doing this. And this is all payments that are coming in. So not just the payments that are coming through our client portal, although ideally that would be most payments. This is all payments that are coming into the financial management system. And what we're looking for in those payments are the examples where we have partial payments or skipped invoices. And so this lets us do two things at once. As the cash application person, I can review the payments that have come in, but then it's also going to highlight for me automatically those opportunities for doing follow-up because somebody who's done a partial payment or skipped an older invoice, great opportunity to follow up with those clients, pull cash forward. When I'm looking at one of these, if I want to dive into the detail in order to understand it better, I can just click on it and see the full billing payment activity, notes on the file, and so on for that particular matter. Cash forecast is really compelling. So this is taking the forecasting that we're doing at the invoice level, rolling it up into what is the overall forecast for the upcoming month. That's interesting. But what I find even more compelling is what are the payments that we forecast that didn't come in? Now, our make-believe law firm here hasn't gotten any payments in for the last 2 weeks, so we're hurting a bit. So there's a lot of missed payments there. But if you go back in time, you would get more what you're expecting. There are going to be some missed payments, like in our example that we started off this session with. And this is exactly what we want. We have a client who normally pays us day 35. And the problem with that, because we have so many clients that tend to pay between days 35 and 40, we're not going to notice until they hit the over 60. But now we're going to pick up on that and we're going to prioritize them. And we're going to do so based on a relative creditworthiness score. So this is another AI technique where what we're doing is creating a relative creditworthiness within your client base. Now, it may be that all of your clients are great, and therefore this scale, which is just 1 to 5, one being the highest risk and 5 being stellar, one in our system is pretty much always bad. So 2 to 5, they may be awesome. But because it's relative scoring, it prioritizes where we want to put our collection efforts first, because that's where we're most likely going to see write-offs is in the lower creditworthiness, because that's just what the financial performance of those clients tell us. So we're going to take those expected payments that have been missed, prioritize them based on the creditworthiness, and just lay them out for you so that it's super easy to prioritize what our collection efforts ought to be. And of course, normally we're going to set this up so that what I'm seeing as a collector are just for the clients or the billing attorneys that I'm responsible for. So this is just some really incredible data to work with, and it's never really possible to do all of the collections work that we'd like to. So being able to prioritize the most important work that has the highest likelihood of improving realization rate has a big impact. Looking at trust is another great example of this. When we've got trust and there's work in process, we really want to make sure that we are getting that billed so that we can apply the trust. Money sitting there becomes ours the moment we bill it. Same thing with AR. And depending on the system we're integrating with and how you're keeping track of it, we'll take into account the way that you're tracking restrictions on those trust balances so that we're showing the appropriate opportunities here. But there's lots of cases where this happens. The attorneys requested a retainer and the bill gets finalized, the retainer comes in 2 days later. Sometimes that gets caught right away. Sometimes it gets caught the next billing cycle. Let's make sure that we catch it every time. Now, just to show a couple of things that you can do for your attorneys if you are giving them access to the system. This is really nice dashboard for them. It just gives an overview for a billing attorney where they're at on what they've billed, what they've collected, write-offs, write-downs, what their AR is, what their WIP is. You can drill down into any of these. So I can see what my billing was broken down. If I don't remember what my write-off was for this $21,000 last August, I can click on it and see the detail and go, oh, yeah, I remember what that was. So it's a great way to get that information out to folks if you don't have a good way to do that today. Same thing with my hours. This might be for associates to see how they're doing relative to their budget and compared to last year. I'm logged in as Kelly. Kelly needs to doing better this year compared to last year, but has some work to do to get caught up with the budget. I can see the detail of where that comes from. If I wanted to dive into, this particular client, I can do that.
So one was just simply a comment that it's really cool the worked transactions all the way to when they get paid, being able to track the life of that transaction, not just the life of general WIP to paid without any way to correlate that. We did have a question
I
of
do like the comment though. It
yeah,
is super cool being
exactly.
able to do that.
Yeah, I thought I'd read through it. And then on, what level we can go down to. So by billing professional, not just department or matter fields or practice area or anything like that, to which I believe the answer is, of course. But just for those who are not paying attention to the chat box. And then the most recent question, happy to field this or you can, but which financial systems this integrates with. And it might be worth just talking about how this integrates to financial systems as we're talking about it as well.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. So it's also a really good opportunity to talk not only about how we do the integration, but something that's super important, which is how do we address the security around that? And just to talk about that philosophically for a moment, one of the one of the things that is just crucial in terms of your perspective on security is that you've got to be thinking about security from the moment you start architecting a system before you write like one line of code. And I just say that because too often security is viewed as this layer that you put on after the fact, and it just doesn't work that way. Like it has to be in the DNA from moment one if you're going to be really good at this. And when we're talking about your firm's financial data, is crucial that you're taking security seriously from the very first moment. The way in which that we sync with your financial management system is that we use built-in Microsoft syncing tools to do that. So it's a very lightweight sync, it has a very minimal impact on the financial management system. And in fact, because we're taking this load and doing this other work outside the financial management system, really the end result is reducing the load on the FMS, which is great. And so what we're doing is capturing the changes that are being made. And it doesn't matter whether we're talking about running on-prem with Aderant 3E or ProLaw, Aderant Sierra. It's the same integration. That running in AWS doesn't change how we're doing it. 3E Cloud changes just how we initially get the data, but then it comes through the same exact process. And those changes, we package them up every 15 minutes with a very lightweight application to Zebraworks Bridge. It calls our API with those changes. And so you get this near real-time sync of the financial management data in our data warehouse. And then everything we're doing, so the application is a multi-tenant application stack, but the firm's data is single tenant. So the data, the SQL database, the data warehouse, the AI models, it's all entirely single tenant, and it all resides within our Microsoft Azure tenancy. Never never leaves. We don't make any outside calls outside of Azure to any sort of AI system. We run everything within our Azure tenant, and so it's all entirely covered by our SOC 2 Type 2 certification. And then, of course, everything is encrypted in transit. Everything's encrypted at rest. All the things that you would expect if you're doing this right.
And so to answer the question, additionally, just which financial systems we integrate with, obviously this slide calls out the ones that primarily make up the 80 live firms. So it's a mix between 3E Cloud on-prem, Aderant on-prem, as well as Sierra and ProLaw. There are a couple of other systems that we're working with as well, working on the SharePoint at the moment. And we plan on continuing to release these. Obviously, our background being on the pro law side and then on the elite side for 15 plus years or so, it made it natural for us to reach out to those firms. And the Aderant response has been equally as responsive, which has been great. So, more to come if I haven't mentioned your system, but that's the ones, speaking from experience, that the bulk of the 80 live clients are using.
Yep. But actively working on a whole new set of support for additional financial management systems. And because we're kind of on the subject, I want to add a little more depth on how we tackle AI. I kind of somewhat jokingly call it boring AI. And what I mean by that is AI that just works and does useful things. And that's exactly what we're doing here. Like this is just helping people. It's stuff that just works. And the way that we do that is the primary thing that we are doing is machine learning. So it's machine learning is one of the core building blocks of generative AI, and it's really the appropriate AI for analyzing structured data because, and I don't want to, if we have any AI data scientists who end up watching this, I'm going to say machine learning is deterministic. The challenge with using generative AI for this kind of analysis is that generative AI is really good at creative things and it has a randomness associated with it. You don't really want randomness involved in analyzing your financial data. You want to implement approaches that are much more deterministic because you want a repeatable process where you're going to get the same results each time based on the same data. And so the models that we're applying here are designed specifically for legal, and we're not doing any cross training. So we take that model and then we train it specifically on your firm's history. This is one of the advantages of when we create our data warehouse, we're pulling the entire history of everything that's in your financial management system all the way down to the time entry and individual cost transaction level across that entire life cycle and using that for our training. And so that means that it's learning from all of your firm's billing and payment history, your clients, your practice areas, your billing attorneys, and so on. And just to emphasize, it's single tenant all the way through the process, and we're never sending the data out to some other place.
All right, good stuff. So we've got about 15 minutes left. I think pretty much wraps what we were at a high level planning on showing. So love to open it up to additional questions. If folks have those, you can just simply tap or type into the webinar chat. I believe this is being recorded possibly as well. So questions come up later. We're always here and And really we can dive into the specifics. If every one of you guys did it the exact same way, this product might not be that exciting, but it's the uniqueness of each firm and the requirements and really the machine learning against your data that's going to play a role in tailoring it specifically to your needs. So any one-on-one demonstrations that would be requested, or if you'd like to see more detail, or maybe you're shy and want to ask questions in person versus on the chat, please feel free to reach out, and I'm sure somebody will follow up with you as well. There was a question, probably as I was talking about, will the recording of the session be available to be shared? And yes, we love to share, and we will make that available so that you guys can enjoy the sharing as well. And there is a yes, we will. I won't call your name out, but I see your name, and we're tracking that, and we will reach out to you to see if we might be able to help your client on that. So I'll continue to monitor. I don't know, Phil, if you have any small talk you'd like to share as I'm monitoring questions. But outside of that, we really appreciate everybody joining us today. But we've got some time if we want to dive in or look at anything in particular. Feel free to shoot that over, and we'll wait a minute or two. And if not, again, certainly appreciate you joining us, and we'll just continue to monitor this for now.
Yeah, one of the things I love about this is all the client feedback that we get that really drives what we've developed in terms of the data sets that we're operating off of, and then the dashboards that get created out of that. And so we're just constantly creating new dashboards to include as part of the base set in what's available. And as we build new dashboards for our clients, those will show up just for admin users, and then you can decide whether to put security on them so that they're available to everybody else. So, you've got full control over who can see what by assigning security roles to dashboards. So, work to cache is probably not going to be available to associates, might only be to the management team. And each user gets to take these things and sort of move stuff around to match whatever is important to them. If there's something that
Actually,
that
Bill, we had a question just about that right now, which was, can we filter the graph shown now down to just one client or department? So it might be interesting to actually filter this work to cash dashboard for specific, say, billing professionals department, and just show how that can be saved then as a customized view. That's
yeah,
a
and you
really
can do it on the fly too, right? Because I can go to practice area here, just click on a practice area, and now my entire dashboard has been updated to just the bankruptcy practice area. And now I'm looking at the billing attorneys for that practice area, the clients in that practice area. Here's the worked amount we did every month in the bankruptcy practice area. So it lets me do exactly that kind of drill down, which is really powerful, being able to play with your data this way and use it to understand what's actually going on.
Yeah, the one thing I think was really missed there is that toolbar up at the top. If you do filter that practice area, the toolbar at the top now allows you to save that view as your default view. So the next time you open this dashboard, that's what you're going to see. So if you're only interested in monitoring that specific practice area or department, then you can save that and retrieve that as your personal view. It'll always allow you to go back to the source dashboard, so filter between your personal view and what we call the published view. But this really saves a lot of time. You don't need to come in and apply that filter every time you look at this dashboard, if that's the way you want to see it. So a lot of customization in there for you.
Yeah, now and everything is now just the corporate litigation department. So I'm seeing my days to pay, days to bill, billed by month, bill to collected write-offs. It's all for corporate litigation. And I could do the same thing by billing attorney, by client. I could add office to this and do it by office. I mean, it's really interesting when you get in and start working with your firm's data, because you will find things that you know are happening, but really being able to see it in the data and understand where do we have challenges with certain billing attorneys where our lockup is longer or certain practice areas. That's why Office is kind of compelling because there's some cultural issues there. And so you're going to see differences by Office. And so there's a there's a lot of reasons to take your firm's performance and be able to kind of dive into it in these different ways.
We had one question around implementation, what that looks like. It's not years, it's weeks.
Yeah, and so it's firm size matters a lot. This is a BI system, but we are not trying to be your firm's overall BI system. We are focused on this specific thing of analyzing and making billing and collections more efficient. And that means that when you turn on DataQ AI, it's there and it's out of the box and ready to go right away. So if we've already implemented invoices to cash platform, turning on DataQ AI is we just turn it on and build the data warehouse. And so it's a week project. And there is the how do we want to customize it? And do you have the internal folks who would build SSRS reports for you today or would build stuff in Power BI? They're just going to love this because it's so much easier than either one of those things. Or do we just sit down and make that part of the project plan for what we do for you? So we are building custom dashboards for our clients left and right. As I demonstrated earlier, it's very reasonable to do so. And depending on the kind of change that you want to do, it's like amazingly easy. So it's just what kind of depth we're going to get into. So this just is not like, in some ways, I hesitate to have the BI acronym associated because BI projects are just really long, challenging, and difficult things. And this isn't. Now, that doesn't mean if you're a large firm and you have a lot of very specific requirements in how you want your data and how you want to analyze it, that there isn't a lot of customization to be done. But we've designed it to support doing exactly that. And being purpose-built makes it a whole lot easier.
And I think that's a good thing to say as well, not only on the DataQ AI piece, but on the whole bill queue and invoices to cash piece. We're a very development driven and forward company, meaning that we think we've got a pretty good handle on this, but we're constantly surprised by the great ideas that our clients come up with. And we don't try to force you into our way of doing these things. There's always some things that every firm's doing the same, but we're here to work with you to make it work for your firm and for the exceptions that you have, whether they be manual or strategic. And so that's something that we're constantly open to doing and usually is a part of most implementations of it'd be great if it did this, and we're all ears. So if there's something you say, hey, that's pretty spot on, it'd be great if it did this, let us know. You never know if we're already working on it, we've got a very aggressive roadmap, or if it's already there.
It's how we figure out what we're doing next.
All right, Bill, I think we've fizzled out on the questions. We will reach out to those who have asked us to reach out. Thanks again for joining us today. We'll give you 5 minutes back here on your time. Bill and Phil, thank you both as well. And yeah, have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, everybody.